night. I'm fine. I just spent a day in Manila today doing an errand, running an errand for one of my English colleagues over there in England. Wanted some papers filed and I went and did it today. So it was a interesting interlude in one day. Back home, the evening is settling in and another day is coming to an end. Have you noticed how here in the Philippines, you can't help but notice how enthusiastic the younger generation are here? Growing up with the last 10 years with young ladies, young teenagers who have now become young ladies, to see the enthusiasm and drive, the challenge of making a dollar is alive and well. Not only is it because here in the Philippines we can't rely upon a handout from any government. Sure, there are local body officials who have a certain amount, we'll call it slush money, to help people in dire need. And it's given in the form of donations or charitable donations. But generally speaking, most Filipinos only get to where they are through hard work and effort. Many of you will notice that businesses often have many strings to their bow. And I say that because some may have hardware shops, some may have haberdashery shops, some may also run stores in the market or run home services. All of these help to build the income up of a family. They live with the Philippine dream, the dream of one day being independent, being wealthy, being able to make better choices with nice surroundings around them. You know, it doesn't take long to notice that there's a certain thread that weaves its way through the soap operas that you see on the local TV stations here. How there's so much drama, struggling, and family conflict. But yeah, out in the real world, the one where everybody needs to eat, everybody needs to have clothes to wear, they're out there trying some little effort to make money. Some of you, of course, maybe rightly or wrongly, suggest that they're out there scamming. No, is it scamming or is it just taking advantage of a situation to get ahead? Another way of looking at it, I suppose. But scamming as such is everywhere in the world. There's always somebody who's going to try and make an easy dollar. But for the majority of Filipinos, they're hardworking. They are willing to do anything to get money on the table to feed the family. They do live with a dream of a better life, a better opportunity, especially for their children. They try and get their children to do as best they can in educational terms. They're prepared to sacrifice their own lives in many ways by going overseas and growing up without their children. In effect, being a baby factory and being a parent overseas to leave other members of the family, uncles and aunts and grandparents, to bring those children up, to become better citizens of the Philippines. Of course, in the West, it's a different story. It's handouts, help it. There's always somebody out there got their hand out for government money. But here there isn't that facility available. So the only way to get ahead is to work hard. So one may talk about them being part of a developing country, a developing lifestyle in an Asian environment. But they're always smiling. They're always doing their best to make ends meet. One can only take your hat off to them. And I think we need to spend less time criticizing those that try and do it as best they can. I mean, even a little child this morning was standing at KFC when I went in for my breakfast. Yes, I could afford it here in the Philippines. Not something I do every day, that's for sure. Not because I can't afford it, but simply I don't particularly like to think of myself having takeouts for breakfast. But when you're on a business trip or doing something away from home, it's always convenient. But this kid must have been, I don't know, 5 or 6 years of age, standing there opening the door for everybody. Most people were ignoring him. And unfortunately, the old heartstrings got pulled. And I've always said I don't like giving food, but knowing how KFC don't exactly present their food very quickly, it's not what I would call fast food. I opted to give him a handful of my coins, which was only some 25 pesos. But his life changed that moment. He was able to consider that he could have some lunch or some breakfast this morning. Why not? He's a human being just the same as I am. He's a very enterprising young guy. And you may think, well, he's probably been schooled by his older brother or sister, or even his parent, who may be just around the corner. But that's city life, trying to make a living as best they can, but not moaning about it, just getting down and doing it. Just like when I was young, I knew that if I didn't get a job that day, it meant there was no money for that day. And that was going to put pressure on the next day and the day after. So it was always important that I was always looking for some form of work. And luckily, in my working life, I can honestly say, hand on heart, I've never been without work. I've just been one of the lucky ones who've worked hard, saved hard, and achieved well. Hence, I'm now in the Philippines, retiring on a reasonable pension. So life can be continued here at a reasonable level. Certainly not at a level that I would be expecting to live if I were back home in New Zealand or Australia, or worst of all, England. Because for those countries, living on a pension is like a horror story. You only have to pick up a British or an Australian documentary and see how people on a benefit, how they live. Not a good lifestyle. And then you have to ask yourself, would you go back? How could you go back to that? You know, life here in the Philippines is like life was in the 50s and 60s. For us, it's a golden time. Like Trump's talking about creating this golden era in America. And I hope he achieves it. Because somebody's got to turn the tide around. You can't just keep living on a credit card like the rest of the governments around the world. You have to earn the money before you can offer it to others. You can't spend money on space, arms, bombs, guns, without it coming from somewhere. It comes from you, your hard-earned work. And more people are relying on money from the government. And they just don't have that money to do it. And the only way they keep in power is to constantly print more money. And we all know that it's like having a credit card. Once you get to that limit and there's no more available, what do? You go bust. You have nothing left. And that's what's happening in the West. They're slowly but surely going bust. And something has to change. Because the countries such as ours here in the Philippines are emerging countries, and the people here have got to realize the future lies within, not their politics. It's about the ethic to work hard, to strive, and it should be the politicians should be watching that. They should be listening. Hopefully, in Asia, you look around Asia, there's plenty of examples of how the people are doing better each year. They're becoming more resilient. They're becoming more, I suppose, defiant. They're not prepared to let everybody else have all the spoils when they're the ones that are trying to make a better life for themselves and their family. They're not there to provide a movie star lifestyle for those rich and famous. You notice how they all like to be on TV? It's all about ego, power, and money. And we, the people, are the ones that should be showing, maybe the ones that have forgotten how it is living with less and achieving more. If you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and don't forget to press that notification bell. And we'll speak again soon. Bye now.